Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, this is Walter from iWalter. I haven't done a solo show now. It has to be about 6 months. Today is actually right now my time, because I don't know when people listen to my shows. But it is Saturday night. No puns, I believe. No puns intended. It's probably not used correctly. I'll get corrected by Matt, even at this early stage. But it is Saturday night, and it is September 28th. It was kind of weird because I started full-time 2 weeks ago at a job I was temping at for over or close to a year. It's actually not been a year yet, but sometime in the next 2 weeks, it would be approximately 1 year I was temping at this job. Now I'm a full-timer, though. So it's kind of cool. I'm sorry for that already, the umming, but I'm trying to keep an eye on my volume levels because, I did a couple tests and it was like way too loud, and I don't like that, so I turned it down, and I think I might have auto-corrected it a bit too much. Now, my theme for tonight, I'm not going to mention anything about, sorry about that, I'm not going to mention anything about this chick, this 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, because I actually looked it up on YouTube to make sure I would say her name correctly. I know my friend Matt, he gets annoyed when I mispronounce words or misuse words, which, for those 5 listeners out there, I'm sure they get very upset, like their whole life is going to be in shambles because I mention misspeak or mispronounce a word. I'm sure that their life is going to come to a bitter end. So I made a mockery of her face, and I put mine on top of it in case anybody was interested. But, that's going to be like the most exciting thing about my podcast tonight. Now, a guy at work, and I think he seems very enthusiastic on doing so. I asked him, hey, would you do a podcast? I'll do like I did with my friend Todd. I'll just do it over the phone line. It usually doesn't sound that great, but you can kind of, it makes for more entertainment than me just bitching and complaining all the time, which actually I enjoy doing. And I haven't done so in quite a while for numerous reasons that I still can't mention. And I really could care less at this point what the reasons are behind that. Anyway, it was interesting, which I'm not surprised. I'm looking at my stories in front of me, like from Facebook. I always push things forward on Facebook that I'll kind of comment about later on. But it was kind of strange that I'm not surprised. But Walmart, we have like a whole bunch of them around this area where I live. And one of them are actually are no longer going to be. It's on Germantown Pike. That's going away. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. But I saw that's why I just mentioned it. Now, I thought I opened up the stories that I wanted. One being, my friend Matt, he commented back about the story or the subject, the topic that me and Todd had, or should I say, to be correct, Todd and I had mentioned last week. The topic was about how it just seems all these city dwellers are moving out of the cities into the suburbs. And we kind of reflected upon, because both of us have seen it where we live. He lives in Wilkes-Barre, and I live in the area of Norristown, Pennsylvania. And we've seen this uprise of people coming out of those areas of the city of New York, the area of New York, and also the area of Philadelphia. And Matt kind of corrected me, but then yet, thanks to Matt, he did send me, and I do mean thank you because I watched it. There's this guy who goes by the name of Tim Cast, I believe. I want to make sure I get his name right. Tim Cast on YouTube. And he actually said that, hey, I lived in, I guess he lived in New York, and he moved into the suburbs of Philadelphia. So he basically, thanks to Matt, even though Matt disagreed, I guess, from Todd and I to a certain point, he also found a story from Tim Cast, who basically said the same thing that Todd and I were saying in last week's episode. And he basically titled it, Millennials Are Fleeing Big Cities for Republican-Held Areas. So the thing about that Tim Cass says, he says, well, the good thing is, because he's neither Republican or Democrat, he's more of an independent, I guess. But right now he steers towards the Republican side because there's a lot that's happening to benefit everyone, even though people don't want to admit to it. So anyway, I wonder if I should turn up that volume level. I hate to, but so anyway, Tim Cass basically said, yeah, the main majority of people are millennials. That's what Tim Cass feels. Millennials are leaving because even though, in my opinion, and did you hear that, Matt? I said my opinion, these millennials and a lot of these Democratic voters are the ones who have made the city so unbearable to live, meaning the cost of living is just outrageous. The taxes are very high. But instead of changing their way of voting or trying to look for a different avenue, they refuse to vote Republican, so they're just going to continue to vote Democrat. So what they're doing now, they realized, well, who lives in the suburbs? A lot of the suburbs, not everyone is. It's more of your Republican-based voters. So Tim Cass said this will erase, at least for the re-election of Trump, he felt that it could erase the votes. They would just kind of diminish because they're going to vote Democrat once they move out to the suburbs, and those votes are going to be soaked up by the Republican votes. I hope he's right. I mean, that's just a Tim Cast speculation. I mean, he can't prove that, and I can't say who's going to win, who's going to lose. I don't know myself. And this is just, me venting myself on what I believe in. So, again, I hope that Tim Cast is correct. So that was like a story thanks to, again, Matt, my friend Matt. He brought that to light that, yeah, this is what we were saying. But then, lo and behold, I found this article on my own. It was in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And it was dated the 18th. So that was like a week ago. It was a week ago, a little over a week ago. There was a story from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it's titled, Why 60,000 Residents Move Out of Philadelphia Every Year. And guess what the reasons are? Because of the high taxes, and they say because there's no work in there, but it's mainly because of the taxes. And it also says, which supports my point, are flocks of New Yorkers moving to Philadelphia? Yes, but what does this mean? Well, again, these are all, in my opinion, I can't prove it, but they're all Democratic voters. Well, those people don't stop at Philadelphia. They actually move even further down. But what they bring with them is their belief that, hey, you know what? We got to still vote Democrat. We have to, and by doing so, they're actually asking for high taxes, sanctuary cities, and a lot of other nonsense, which I don't even want to go into. And by the way, in this article from the Philadelphia Inquirer. What was it titled? I think that is the title, actually. It's titled, Why 60,000 Residents Move Out of Philadelphia Every Year. And it's on the, if you want to look it up, it's dated. It says updated September 18th, 2019. It was a free article for anyone to read, and it does break down that, yes, people are moving out of the cities into the suburbs. Oh, because of better education, too, which to me, that's just a joke, because I did mention this in the podcast with Todd, that a lot of these people can't even find themselves out of a well-lighted, whatever you want to say, paper bag. I'm trying to be as sarcastic as possible, because I've said this numerous times, to people and my friends, and they know this. They just don't. It does not fit their motive, or whoever it may be, or however you want to say that, their agenda to prove me wrong. But I've proven it 3 times in my lifetime. I've had received this test. Thank goodness I didn't have to pay for it any of those 3 times. But determine if I have a learning disability, and the severity of my learning disability kind of places me in the category of borderline retarded, retardation. So, but what that does for me, it just makes it more difficult for me to learn and comprehend things. But miraculously, I somehow was able to get, well, not miraculously, and that's not even the word I actually wanted to use. I'm just afraid to use anything else and be corrected on using the wrong word. But it was a very big struggle for me to get through high school and through college. But it was something that I did want, and it had taken me a lot longer to get a 4-year degree. Most people do it within 4 years, maybe 5 or 6. Well, for me, you're talking more like 14 years, because it was something I wanted. And it's not the normal length of time, but I started probably back, I would believe, in 92, and I didn't finish until 2001. So make sure, because I'll get corrected on my math, which math is one of my weak areas, by the way. So I'm going to put in, to make sure I get this correct, minus 2001 minus 1992, and I could be incorrect on that. Okay, I stand corrected. It was 9 years. It wasn't 14. It was 9 years it had taken me to get through from starting out at college, at a junior college, to get finished with a 4-year degree at a regular college, which the junior college was Montgomery County Community College. The 4-year college was Cabrini College, which is now called Cabrini University. I can't get used to the university part, so I just call it Cabrini College still. So the bottom line is, yes, it was a very big struggle, and generally it doesn't take a person 9 years to get a 4-year degree. But I was determined, and I did finish with both a associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. One was in applied science, the other one was in communications. And I've had other struggles through my life. But I hear this stuff about better education in the suburbs, and I have to laugh, because really all that we're getting is taxed more. I hear this all the time. We're getting hired, not myself, but other people are being taxed. Even retirees, they're paying more for school taxes, and they don't have any children. And the thing is, these kids aren't any smarter than I. They're actually they're less intelligent than I am. And I mentioned this last week, and I'll mention again. It's just funny, for a private school that I, had attended, and I paid for it out of my own pocket, which was Cabrini College and Montgomery County Community College. I had a very hard time, but I knew that it would just take me much longer to get through school, but I was determined to do so. Well, now you got people who, go to these prep classes and stuff. I never had that. I didn't go into or attend college until I was about 22. So these kids are, getting prepped in high school. They're supposedly getting a better education than I had years ago, but yet they can't even graduate from high school or even college because the dropout rate at Cabrini was really high, apparently, and the amount of people who graduate is even lower. Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? But it's like 50% graduate. And to me, that was just laughable, coming from me. Now, the whole thing why I am naming this episode Walter Thunberg is because I've had a very lengthy history of mental illness. And the most I can get as far as people listening to me is about 5 people, if I'm lucky. And that being said, this Greta Thunberg seems to have attracted a lot more people at obviously a lot younger age. I mean, I'm 52. She is 16 years old, and she's not even from this country, which doesn't have anything to do with anything at all. But apparently, everybody that is from the media or these leftist wackos take what she says at face value like it means something. And they had determined, I was listening to this show called Pat Gray, the recap from Friday of this guy on the Blaze channel called The Blaze. And he was saying that this girl has, she suffers from mental illness. One, besides that, she's 16 years old. So why is the general public taking everything she says as though she is like speaking like from the Bible or something, or she's saying something that is, so important that you need to listen to what she's saying because she's talking about the destruction of the planet and climate change. You're hearing this from a mentally disturbed, mentally challenged child at the age of 16, and you take that as though it is the gospel. And then if I talk nonsense right away, and you're going to say, well, you're 52, she's 16. Well, I hate to tell you, I specify on every show almost, I will correct myself on that because I'll be corrected on that. Almost every show I've done, I've mentioned in the past, this is just hearsay. This is just a podcast. I only have approximately 5 people who listen to me. Once in a blue moon, it says that I've had 100 listeners. And that to me is like I basically conquered the universe, to me. But it's nothing to write home about, and it's nothing to call the cops on me. Hey, this guy, Walter Durante, has 100 listeners, and what he's talking about is not politically correct, or is it politically accurate? So we better call the police and call the government because he's misinforming people about the truth. So my whole thing about that is people, though, will mock me and try to correct me and just find me, which I have never denied the fact that I have mental health issues. But this girl here who clearly has mental health issues is being taken like she is like the second coming of the Messiah, and that you should follow everything she says. And I'm like thinking to myself, you're nuts. I mean, literally nuts, more than me and this girl is. But I'm like dumbfounded how stupid people are in general, and how like that the best they can come up with is just, trying to attack me and tear me apart. For what? I'm comparing myself from one mental patient myself to another one. You're comparing yourself saying that, well, this girl's only 16. She really doesn't know any better. Well, guess what? There's people out there who believe everything she's saying. Like, you should listen to this girl. She absolutely knows what she's saying. No, she doesn't. She's 16 years old. She has no freaking clue what she's saying. And she's got mental health issues. I mean, come on. Do I need to, like, bang on your head like, George McFly got in Back to the Future and say, hello? Is anybody home? Is anybody in that cranium? Because it seems like it's an empty-headed person if they have to attack me on what I'm saying right now, which somebody will. But I just had to get that out. I really just had to get that out because it does bother me. Anyway, that was like the main topic of discussion tonight, and I did that in about 20 minutes. On somewhat of a lighter note, I've been it's kind of strange, but I had sold off. I have to kind of lighten the mood because apparently I get too serious about stuff. I had I sold my, I had this thing called an Xbox One X, and you know what? It was really nice, but it made my room extremely hot. And I never really used it. The only thing I used on there was this 4K Blu-ray player, which once in a while, like, I collect things. Now, this is a 180-degree change. I'm talking about Greta Thunberg, and now I'm talking about a freaking Xbox. I know, that's a big change. So anyway, I need some recreational activities, and it's not going to be smoking marijuana either, trust me. And I've never done drugs. I might be crazy, but I'm not stupid. I don't do drugs. So anyway, yeah, it was like my room was always getting like extremely hot. It was like, where's this heat coming from? It's like there's a heater on 100 degrees in my room all the time. So I looked and I felt the top of this damn Xbox, and it was like you could cook some eggs and a cup of coffee on the top of it, and it was off. It was turned off. So what happens is it was running in the background all the time, like it does updates to it. So you know what? It was like I was thinking to myself, I don't use this damn thing. I'm just going to get rid of it. So I did that. I got rid of it, and then I end up like, well, you know what? I don't play a lot of video games. I don't do much. I use it as a media box. And I told some guy at work, he overheard me. I told one guy that I want to get rid of this Xbox. I forget who it was, and there was a guy at work. His name's Lou. And this guy, Lou, came up to me. He says, oh, you know what? My Xbox just died. He says, I don't know anything about video games. I don't play any games. I just use it as a media hub. It was like, well, you know what? I am getting rid of my Xbox One X. That's like the grandiose one that does everything. And you can tell me, well, if you don't use the Xbox much, why don't you just unplug it? I did do that, actually. I did unplug it. And it was just kind of pointless to keep it. So the guy at work, I told him, I said, guess what? If I try to trade this in, I'm only going to get $180. So he gave me $180 in cash. I said, it's yours. Because I didn't want to deal with trying to sell it on eBay or something and deal with that nonsense. So the only problem was I paid $500 for the unit when I bought it like 2 years ago. So I was a little bit upset about that. Because when you sell something to a place like GameStop, they turn around. They will give you $180, but they'll turn around and then they'll sell it to the next person who wants to buy that unit. They'll sell it to them for $400 because they're into making a profit. They're not there to lose money. They're there to make money. And that company, by the way, is plummeting. Like, they're going to eventually no longer exist, the GameStop. So that's a whole different ball of wax. So anyway, there are certain things I like doing, and I've been a big Sony fan. So Sony makes the thing called the PlayStation 4. So I end up buying a used one of those at GameStop. You can only buy. I wanted a white one. I'm very. I don't think meticulous would be the word, but I'm just really. Maybe it's my OCD thing. These consoles only come in black, but they make special, quote unquote, limited editions in white. So I bought one that was they no longer make on GameStop. It was in mint condition. It was called a PlayStation 4 Pro, and it actually is not that bad. And the one thing is that I was really afraid about getting it is these damn machines, these consoles. These are like not the original ones. They came out in 2013, I believe, like the same age as my my Mac Pro desktop. That came out. It came out around the same year. They made newer versions of these consoles, but what they did is they overclocked them and other stuff, so it makes it get very hot. Well, the one thing I will say about Sony, they don't get hot. And that was a nice thing. Like when you turn it off, it is off. When you have it on, if I do play a game, which I don't play that often, but if I do want to play a game, the last thing I have to worry about is extreme heat. So that was really nice. A lot of people like it. I kind of do. And I just stumbled upon one of my big things right now is I'm watching all these old Perry Mason shows. And it was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. Unfortunately, it only plays DVDs. But that's not a problem because a while back I overpaid a credit card by, don't ask me how I did this, but I overpaid it by like $300. So I went on Amazon. And I was like, I've been intending to get rid of that Xbox for a while, and then I did sell it. But, yeah, I with the credit I had from Amazon, because they only gave me, like, credit. They didn't give me cash back. They gave me credit on Amazon.com. I ended up buying a region-free 4K player for that price. Like, I didn't want to spend any more, so I got whatever fit into the overpayment, and I used that. So I don't know why I got the credit. It was not even maybe an overpayment. It might have been something I even returned. I can't remember. So the bottom line is I do have a 4K Blu-ray player, and it's an LG, which I'm not a big fan of. Now, the thing I do like about the Xbox, I'm watching, like, going back to what I was saying a couple seconds ago, I'm watching these old Perry Masons. Now, there was 9 seasons of that. I was watching it on Amazon, and I didn't realize, but after a while, I noticed like some of the seasons were shorter on Amazon. What they did is they didn't get all the episodes of Perry Mason, which indicates to me they probably couldn't pay for the rights for the particular episode. So there was missing a lot of episodes in the seasons 1 through 5. I mean, you're talking almost like 30 episodes were missing out of those 5 seasons, like 10 per season they didn't pay for. So that was a problem. And then the second problem was they didn't bother to purchase any more episodes after season 5. So I ended up going on eBay, or not eBay, actually it was Amazon, or it could have been eBay, and I looked for the cheapest price I could buy of all 9 seasons to get the ones I missed and the ones that I haven't watched yet. So I picked it up for like, I think $90 a few months ago. And I finally cracked into watching the episodes. It was a used box set of Perry Mason. Now, one of the problems is everybody, I think, at this point has a TV set that it's 16 by 9 or, a high-definition set, which is 16 by 9. Well, the problem is Perry Mason is from 1959, 1960 to about 60, probably the date of my birth, maybe a little bit before. Let's see. It was on for 9 years. Probably around the time, my birth, 67. Maybe a little bit before that ended. Either way, they're 4x3 episodes. So this, usually things get stretched out. You can tell it's stretched on old TV shows. Or I have to go in and configure my TV set so it doesn't look like it's in a little box watching these episodes. I mean, this is not the main reason, because I just stumbled upon this on the PlayStation I have now. But it actually has a thing in there that, like, it intelligently, it smartly, as I would put it, either word is not correct, makes it fit to full screen without losing anything on the picture of these old TV shows, which I'll be watching. I've already watched, it had taken me already about 5 months to watch almost the first 5 seasons, maybe a little bit shorter, but not by that much, like maybe 4 months. So the bottom line is I'm going to be spending the next couple months watching these shows, and it's very refreshing to watch shows that I don't have to jury-rigged the TV set to fit the episodes on, and they actually upscale them on the PlayStation. So to me, that was worth it. I did buy a couple games. If I have friends over the house, I actually have an extra joystick, and I can play games like Mortal Kombat or something else with a friend. I actually have one or two friends at the job I work now. They have both the Xbox and the PlayStation, and they signed up. Now they know I only have a PlayStation, so I can actually, if I want to, play games with them online and, kind of have them kick my ass in the process. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Not have my ass kicked, though. So, one thing is I really have not made anything as far as episodes lately, like I said, for the past practically 6 months. So now I have again. I'm starting to slowly. And next week, like I said, I might have something a little bit more entertaining with Paul Green, which would actually be very nice. It would be a bit refreshing, just like the one with Todd was, I think. So, by the way, folks, I wanted to actually ask Matt this too, because he borrowed my password, which he'll give you. He said it was password 123. Anyway, for Shudder, Shudder finally started their stream. I have a whole year subscription to Shudder. I only paid like $50 for it, but I got a whole year subscription to Shudder, and they finally started Tales. No, I'm sorry, not Tales. I was going to say Tales of the Crypt, Tales of the Dark Side. They're all pretty much very similar, but no, it was the TV series that just started based upon the comic books from, like, I guess the 50s called Creepshow. Now, I went in there with the expectation that it was going to be kind of like Tales of the Crypt when it was on HBO, because that was based upon the comic book, but not really, because HBO added sex and violence, which you really wouldn't have seen, because what are those comic books geared towards selling? What is their market that they're selling these comic books to back in the 50s? They're basically looking for, like, 12-year-olds, so you can't really have anything that's sexual or gory to the extent that would be offensive to the parents. It was offensive, but I'm going to look when Creepshow came out. What year. But anyway, I watched the first episode of Creepshow, and it was like, well, this is kind of like childlike. It's kind of like goofy almost. It reminds me of, I'm trying to think of other kids stuff that was made into movies and things like that. And basically, it's the same premise. And it was like, yeah, well, it was written, these comic books were written for children to read. Not for adults, but for children. The adults did not like it. Yeah, I can't find, they're only showing you as far back as 1982. But a lot of these horror movie people, directors, read these comics as a kid, and that's what influenced them as adults to actually get into making horror movies. So I'm going to try to put in comic book. See if I can do this without making a lot of noise. No, it's just going back as far as 1982, and trust me, yeah, Creepshow anthology 1982, but based upon the comic books of the 1950s. So I was absolutely right. Yeah, they came out in 1950s, but there was other movies that were based upon children's books, and I'm trying to figure out what they were called, and most of them pretty much are that. They're children's books, horror books, like to scare kids, but not make them get, it did do that too, but not give them nightmares. So give me a second and let me do this. I'm trying to keep this within an hour span. I apologize for the pause. Horror books for children. Because I can't remember them off the top of my head. I think, yeah, I'm not coming up with any. And I even put that in. Oh, Goosebumps. Yeah, Goosebumps was one that was really popular. There was another movie that was like Goosebumps that I didn't realize. I just knew it was coming out, some horror movie coming out, but it was actually based upon a line of scary books. I think it was actually called, well, no, that's not it. I think it was called Scary Stories. That was another one. Actually, it was a children's book to scare little kids. But those things that I talked to, Terrifying Tales to Tell at Night. That was the other one. Well, these books that the younger folks I work with now, one or two said, I read those books as kids, and they scared the hell out of me when I was a little kid. I had nightmares. And then seeing it as an adult in the movie, it reminded me when I was a kid how scared I really got. So the bottom line is, though, I looked at it and was like, well, I never read these children's books, and as an adult seeing it for the first time, it does not scare me. Going back to Creepshow, it was the same thing. I've never really, and they're going page by page and like art frame by art frame to reproduce what was in the original comic books. They're not doing like what they did in the Creepshow movie, which was actually make it entertaining for adults. It's actually taken from the children's comic books, so it's not going to be that scary. I have to look something else up too. I was watching Perry Mason tonight and season 6, and the first episode was actually really good because the one actor who he stood out right away was actually in a Twilight Zone episode. One I actually really liked, and I'm seeing if I can find his face. And the name of that episode, because the guy played in the Twilight episode. It was the very first episode of season 6, but the episode he played in was the guy who goes in the one Twilight Zone episode. He goes into a monastery with a bunch of monks, and there's this man they have locked up in a cell, and he's like crying and screaming and everything like that. And the guy who comes in, like it was raining and stuff, who comes into this monastery, here's this man pleading for his freedom. Oh, it's called The Case of the Bogus Books was the name of the episode. And anyway, this actor in the Twilight episode, I'm trying to look for his name. I really like him in that particular Twilight episode, and was in this Perry Mason again. He lets this man out of this cell, but the only thing holding this guy imprisoned in this monastery, by the way, is like a special cane that holds the guy in, and the cane could not hold anybody in except one thing, not even a person, and that was Satan. So that particular episode, I really enjoyed that. And this particular actor, though, was also in this episode called The Case of the Bogus Books. Now, I can't find his name. Oh, no, that was the wrong one. So, yeah, that was definitely, I'm a whole over the place, I know. So, but yeah, that was kind of intriguing. I was hoping I could find, I was going to do that actually. Oh, and Adam West was in this episode as well. Yeah, I'm not pulling up anything on what I'm looking for. Just the main actors. And the gentleman who played in that one episode of, Twilight Zone and Perry Mason. Yeah, you know what? I totally forgot, but yeah, that was actually another treat. Was Adam West, because I have not seen Adam West in a long time. You know what? I'm not going to spend too much time because I'm already at 40 minutes, and for me to dig up this guy's name, this actor's name, would just take way too long. But yeah, I'm still doing it. I said I'll stop, but I am still doing it. But yeah, that one episode of the Twilight Zone was really, really good. And, you know what? I know I keep on saying this. I've done this in the past. actor in Twilight Zone who confronts Satan. Basically, when the guy opens up the cell, he basically lets Satan was like opening up in Pandora's box. Let's see if I can find it. It's a lot harder than I thought. Of course, I can't spell. That does not help. Okay, I'll give up. I apologize. Oh, no, here it is. Here's the name of the episode. God, I don't know how I did that. The name of the episode was called The Howlin' Man. And that was a really good episode. But that particular actor who lets Satan out of the cell was also in this Perry Mason episode, the very first one for the season. It's kind of weird because his name doesn't show up on either thing for the Howlin' Man or that episode of Perry Mason, which is kind of strange. Anyway, since I'm on the line of entertainment and I'm already I apologize. I keep on stepping away from the mic. There was a movie, there was two movies a friend at work had mentioned to me I should check out, a younger friend. And one was called Midsummer, which I ended up just buying that, and another movie he recommended called The Dead Don't Die that just came out for rent. Midsummer is the same director who made the film called The Witch, which is actually a very dark and demented film, very, very well executed, if I can say that. It's a very good film. So this director also made another film called Midsummer, and it's not spelled Summer. It's spelled actually Sommer, because I looked at that and I asked a guy at work, and he said, yeah, that's like an old English way of spelling summer. It's actually pronounced the same way, though. I'll get corrected on that probably, too. So, Midsummer I have not watched yet. I don't know when I will watch it, but I do own it, so I don't have to worry about an expiration date on watching that film, because I purchased it. Sorry about that pop, but I purchased it on iTunes. So anyway, The Dead Don't Die. A friend at work said, you may not like it, but it is a good film. It's more of an independent film as far as the way it was shot. Very low budget, but it's very tongue-in-cheek. In fact, not only is it very tongue-in-cheek, it's very dry in the sense of humor, even more dry than films you would see like from England on the same type of humor. Like the humor is very, very dry. But if you enjoy like independent film work, a movie that kind of makes you think, then yeah, you will like The Dead Don't Die. It was a really good film. I've said that a million times, I know. And it's got I like to say like a sleuth of actors that have established themselves, not with everyone, but quite a few of them. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of IMDb on the names of the cast. And it was Bill Murray, Adam Driver, Tita Swanston, or Swinton, Chloe Savini, I think it is, Steve Buscemi, which is well-known, Danny Glover, Rosie Perez, Iggy Pop, Sarah Driver, it's RZA, Carol Kane, Selena Gomez, Tom Waits, Austin Butler. I apologize for sabotaging a lot of these names. And there's at least 12 more names or 6 more names that I have not mentioned because I just don't want to destroy them. But the bottom line is it's got like a pretty, wide amount of different types of background of pretty successful actors, a lot of well-known actors, and some that have actually pretty well, they have established themselves. Not with the way I pronounced their names, though, but there's a lot of them that are well known. They're known for their television and film work. So yeah, I mean, it was just very subtle, very slow. It's about zombies, yes, but it's not your typical zombie movie. You think everything could be done, like they've beaten that horse too many times of making another zombie movie, but this one was definitely different. It was a comedy too. That's been done, yes, but not quite this way. So it was really good. It was really good. I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to say you would. You might see it and say, this is the most incredibly boring film I've ever seen, because it can be perceived as being very boring. But yeah, I definitely would recommend that too. Again, it's called The Dead Don't Die. I might actually make it within that span of 60 minutes with, saving many people's lives, because right now I'm not even at 50 minutes, so that's good. So anyway, I did want to mention that kind of stuff. And again, my main thing for doing something tonight was, one, to let people know, hey, I might have a guest on. It'll be another phone call type situation. So give or take, if I set it up correctly, it should sound pretty damn good. Otherwise, it's going to sound as good as when I, do these solo episodes. So, hey, another thing is me being a big fanboy of Apple. I'll just kind of round it up with that, hopefully, unless I think of something else. Apple did put out 13.1, OS 13.1 for your iPad. They also put it out for your phone. They made little updates, very, very small updates for your desktop, because I have that. Now, speaking about Apple, another thing is, because I'm going to talk a little bit about tech, very small amount. I'm trying to kind of run out the clock. But Apple later this year, it's actually probably like a month or so away, they're going to be putting out their new Mac Pro. Now, the start price for the new Mac Pro desktop, it's big too. It's huge. It is designed for professionals. And they're going to make a special monitor that they recommend you use. You don't have to use it with this new Mac Pro. The monitor alone is going to be 5K, big whoop, because they're not going to really bother to make anything 5K, except Apple will. So you have 4K monitors and TVs. I have 4K monitors and a television set, so I have both. But most of the general public is not going to go to 5K. They're going to go from 4K to 8K. So it's kind of stupid why they have to do it, though. Apple has to be different and make a 5K monitor. But to add insult to injury, in so many words or less, that 5K monitor is going to cost you like it's going to cost you about $4,000 or $6,500, something like that. It's something really expensive. And then you have to buy for an additional $1,000 a stand, because it's just going to be a monitor with no backplate. Like, I've had Apple monitors over the years, and they come with the stand because, you have to have the stand to put the monitor on. You're not going to lay the monitor on the table. You need something to hold it up. Well, they're going to charge you an additional $1,000 just for the stand. That doesn't come with it. Whoever heard of a monitor without a stand? I mean, that makes no sense. So their new desktop, the entry level with nothing in there, just the stuff that barely have it running, which is you may get a hard drive, you might get some memory, you may even actually get a graphics card in the machine. But that's going to be actually considered extra for that stuff. You need that to run a computer. I hate to tell you. That stuff's going to, the bare bone system is $6,500. Now, I had some article. I'm not going to dig it up. I showed it to some people at work, and I said, Yeah, you know how much that new computer is going to cost to get it running properly, the new Mac Pro? $50,000. 50 grand to run a new Mac Pro. So that's a lot of money. Now, on one end, I think you can run up to, I think it's something crazy like a terabyte or something like that. I think it is like a terabyte of RAM. I mean, it's something really just crazy. So, yeah, I mean, it's meant for people who are professionally making films or doing other professional stuff. To them, that won't be, that would be a drop in the bucket probably. But for the average user like me, yeah, spending like over $50,000 for a computer is a bit steep. Yeah, even for me, I would have to say that's a bit steep. That's just crazy. It's crazy talk, yo. Okay, I'm looking at now, I mean, it looks very impressive because I'm looking at it now. You can get the cores, the processor cores. Nobody has this. No one has this. The high-end machine has 28 cores, 28 processor cores. You can get the cheaper ones, which they go from 28 down to 8 cores. 8 cores would be your $6,500 system. Now, I'm trying to look, like the graphics card is going to be insanely expensive. And insanely fast. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. They're making a 5K monitor, but yet then the graphics card is capable of handling up to 8K. So that's kind of really dumb. Don't get me wrong, the machine looks sweet, but I don't even have the room for one thing. I wish Apple would make something comparable, but at a much lower cost. Okay, yeah, here's the memory. The memory is going to be up to 1 terabyte. You can put up to 1 terabyte of memory in the damn machine. I think it was actually higher than that, but they're saying up to 1 terabyte of memory. I think it's a lot higher than that. That's the RAM. If you're familiar with computers, that's your RAM. And I am actually getting really close. I'm surprised I was able to make an hour show. But yeah, if you go to Apple's website, you will find everything that you need to know about the new Apple Mac Pro desktop. Otherwise, just look for the article I found because it's not that hard to find. It might have been by like the Wall Street Journal, or not Wall Street Journal, but one of those business magazines. They even thought that was just crazy that they're making a machine that could cost up to 50 grand. I mean, who would not think that's not crazy? I mean, I love Apple, but I've said this for many years, folks. They are a hardware company. They're not in there to they're not making any money off their software. They're making it off their hardware because they give the software away for free now. They've done that for years. I'm trying to see if I could just find that, but they did say $50,000. So sorry, I keep on moving my head away. Wow, I didn't put enough zeros. But yeah, that's no joke. I was just curious. Yeah, the least spec to get it running halfway decent is around 35. But then to get it like, oh yeah, here we go. A fully powered Mac Pro could cost over 50 grand, $50,000. This is from Desert News. It's not the one I originally seen, so there's other people. A fully powered Mac Pro can cost over 50 grand. The Mac Pro itself is 6 grand for 128 gigs of DDR4. That's about 18 grand. 2 terabyte solid state drives will cost you up to $2,400. For a 28 core system, you're talking about 8 grand. For 2 of their graphics cards, you're talking another $12,000. And for the Apple Pro display, that's around 5 grand, so I was off on that price, but not by much. And then, as I said, the Apple Pro stand, which isn't included with the monitor, is another grand. That's $6,000 then you're spending on the monitor. The Apple Magic Keyboard, which who needs that? I have no clue, is $228. It's the cheapest damn thing on that machine to get it just running kind of properly. Not perfect, but kind of properly. So that is just freaking insane. That is freaking insane. I love Apple, but they've definitely gone a little local. So, you know what? That might be where I should just let off with that, with the Apple thing. So anyway, folks, I do have tons to talk about because I've been off for such a long time. But either way, you know, I always say this. I just hope you enjoy what I put together because I am actually just saying whatever is on my mind. I'm like free thinking. And I hope what I am doing is satisfying to someone out there. You know, maybe some other lunatic. Maybe it's actually Greta Thunberg. Maybe she's listening. I hope so, because maybe I can hook up with her, you know, and get sent to jail for saying that about a 16-year-old, because I'm not a bleeding heart liberal who can get away with that. So anyway, folks, have a good night. This is Walter from iWalter, and I should be, maybe, I am cross my fingers, I'll be back with Paul Green next week. So have a good one, and I hope you enjoyed what I did.